In this lesson, we are going to discuss the nomenclature of covalent compounds. At the end of this video lesson, you should be able to write names and formulas of covalent compounds. Reviewing the periodic table, the elements found on the right side of the metalloids are the nonmetals. Nonmetals can form compounds with each other. These do not contain ions which use transfer of charges. Instead, nonmetals share electrons to form covalent bonds. In naming binary covalent compounds or type 3 compounds, compounds are treated as ionic compounds except that numerical prefixes are used. The numerical prefixes indicate the number of atoms for each element. These are mono, di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, octa, nona, deca, and so on. These compounds are called binary covalent compounds since there are two nonmetal elements involved. For the first nonmetal, the full element name will be used. On the other hand, the second nonmetal will be treated as an anion. To recall, monoatomic anions end with the suffix "ide." Numerical prefixes are used for binary covalent compounds. However, the prefix mono is not used in the first nonmetal unlike the second nonmetal which uses all prefixes. Let us look at some examples in writing formulas and names of covalent compounds. Here we have NO2, NO, and N2O4. The two nonmetals involved here are nitrogen and oxygen. Since oxygen is our second nonmetal, we are going to use its root followed by the suffix "ide." Thus, oxygen becomes oxide. After identifying the nonmetals, we are going to identify the number of atoms in the compound as indicated in the subscripts. For NO2, since we have one nitrogen atom, we do not use the prefix mono. For oxygen, we use the prefix di for 2. For NO, we will still not use mono for nitrogen. For oxygen, since there is only one, we are going to use mono. For N2O4, the prefixes are di and tetra for nitrogen and oxygen respectively. As an additional rule, to avoid awkward pronunciations, we are going to omit some of the vowels. So here we have nitrogen dioxide for NO2, nitrogen monoxide for NO, and dinitrogen tetroxide for N2O4. Now, let's do the other way around. We're going to write the formulas given the name of the covalent compound. We're going to write the formulas for dinitrogen trioxide, dinitrogen monoxide, and dinitrogen pentoxide. Identifying the nonmetal elements involved, we have nitrogen or N and oxygen or O. Next is we are going to write the numerical counterparts for all numerical prefixes. 2 for dinitrogen and 3 for trioxide. Next is 2 for dinitrogen and 1 for monoxide. Lastly, 2 for dinitrogen and 5 for pentoxide. We are going to omit 1 as a subscript. So we have N2O3 for dinitrogen trioxide, N2O for dinitrogen monoxide, and N2O5 for dinitrogen pentoxide. To conclude this lesson, let us review the following key points. Binary covalent compounds are formed between two nonmetals. Prefixes are used to denote the number of atoms present. The first nonmetal uses the element name. The second nonmetal is treated like an anion. And lastly, the prefix mono is not used for the first nonmetal. And that ends our discussion on the nomenclature of covalent compounds.